fantasy and some flights, exploring the realms of beer, board games, books, and bourbon.
Boardvengers, it's that time of year again, or that time of month again, day, time, something like that. Let's assemble. Let's talk about some games. So first and foremost, I want to thank Fantasy and Some Flights. I want to thank Dalton and Nelson for hosting us this evening.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to introducing us. On my screen, I'm going to start off with my bottom middle and work my way up because Fantasy and Some Flights is just next to me in the screen. So I'm going to start with Dave. Dave, where can we find you? And thank you for being here this evening.
Of course, yeah, no, it's always fun. So I'm Dave with Gamefoundry is my Instagram handle and also my Etsy shop. And I on my Instagram, I talk about the games I play and explore kind of the intersection of 3D printing and board gaming.
Awesome. Ben and M.
You can find us on Instagram at Date Night Dice. And you can also check out our podcast, Date Night Dice, where we barely talk about board games, as hard as I try to talk about board games.
Sorry.
We talk about video games, movies, working out, board games, and we also have been doing in-depth analysis of bad movies.
Bad movies, our D list.
The Date Night D list. So come on, check us out there.
And to people listening for the first time, to Ben and M, Ben does not sound like that. He just has a cold. So if you're thinking of some Barry White type of sultry voice,
sorry, we're not going to get this for much longer.
Typically, I have a very nerdy, nasally engineer voice, so I'm taking advantage of this.
That's fine. You're on our podcast, and our listeners are used to
that. McKay.
All right, so I'm the Board Critic on Instagram. I have a couple things going on. I mentioned Backfire Games is the company that me and my business partner are starting. The podcast has been fun. I do it with Evan from Being Friends. It's the Better Board Games podcast. It's kind of fun and unique. The one that's I just uploaded today that will launch in 2 weeks, but it's we get weirdly personal and deep about the psyche of board games and personal development and just how to be a better person and just be decent human beings. So Evan was a perfect choice for that. But we go through some internal struggles. It gets real. So if you're interested in that, but yeah, I'm all over the place by lots of different names.
And awesome. Hey, when does Snack Time launch on Kickstarter, or has it already?
It hasn't yet. The pre-launch page is up. Go to my Instagram or Backfire Games, find that one, and you can get to the pre-launch page. It should be in about 2 weeks. Haven't set an official date. Still playing up a couple loose ends, coming down to the wire.
That will be right around the time that this releases, probably. So
perfect.
Yes. So if you are listening
live, if you're hearing this,
yes, you should be able to find it.
If you're live, pause, go back it, come back.
Snack time. It's called snack time.
Listen to the
snack time it is.
Meg.
I'm Meg, or Professor Meg, and I'm mostly on Instagram. I would say try to find me there and you'll find everything else that I kind of trickle out through the internet. But yeah, I mostly post about either new games that are coming up or games that I've been playing a lot. There's no more Gloomhaven to talk about, but there will be Forgotten Circles. So yeah, I'm Professor Meg, mostly on Instagram. I'm angry on Twitter.
That's what Twitter's for.
An angry place.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
Twitter is so angry.
That's actually very true.
So I'm D20 Woodworking. If you want to see a post about once a month, I'm on there to talk about solo games. So I guess that's where I'm active. But I'm always there to talk about solo board games. And really nowadays I talk about the holy trinity of LCGs, and that's about it. So if you want to talk about that, I'm all for it.
Cool. I'm Roberto. I have sheer boredom on Instagram, sheer boredom table talk on YouTube. I talk to people within the board game sphere, content creators, designers, publishers, so on and so forth, and just have chats with them and see where they're at with board games. And that's where you can find me. And last but not least, our lovely host this evening, Fantasy and Some Flights. For my left, we'll start with Dalton, and then we can continue on from there.
Oh, this is exciting. Nelson usually closes out the podcast, and so like I get to
Ooh.
actually promote us a little bit. So I'll do his little rant. So we are at Fantasy and Some Flights on Instagram. Nelson is super active and super involved there. A great place to connect. And then I also run our Discord. You can find the easiest place to find that link is on our website at fantasyandsomeflights.com. If you came to us through any of our esteemed colleagues here, all these content creators that we have with us, we really appreciate you checking us out. And the website is like, if you can find us through any like podcast hosting that you want to, Spotify or Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to. And then if you get on fantasyandsomeflights.com, that's the easiest place to get plugged into our Discord. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Nelson.
What he said. Yeah. I mean, he nailed it. So
excellent. So perfect. Let's get right into it. All right. What's going on with everyone today? I mean, Nelson's been at Gen Con. I met Ben for the first time ever. I met Meg. Like, McKay has been doing some awesome, cool things. Jason and Dave have been doing some really cool things. Let's have a quick chat. Who wants to go first? Who wants to start?
Well, I would just like to say that meeting Roberto was taxing and exhausting.
Stressful.
Stressful. Oh, no, that's not true at all. We spent the weekend at Stonemeyer Design Day in St. Louis. He invited me down there, gave me a free ticket and a place to stay. Got an Airbnb that was like, a block from the event. I mean, it was like a 5-minute walk.
That's nice.
So I had a great time. I really did. And even though we were forced to hang out with each other for the first time ever, and then continuously for 2 days straight, I still managed to have a wonderful time. So I really appreciate that. And it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool to get to meet in person and, make a new friend and just have a good time playing games, talking about other stuff, having some drinks and good food. It was awesome. We had fun.
It was difficult, absolutely, to be with me. I was trying to leave the entire
Oh,
time.
come on.
It was tough, man. It was tough. I was like, oh, this guy, Ben, he's the worst. He has holes in his socks. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
Make the
Those were
holes
the
or
good
bring the
socks.
ones with holes.
Bring the ones with holes. Oh, well. They
The
all
ones
have
I
holes.
haven't found and thrown away. Yeah.
Oh, well.
I
Awesome.
know we all
Actually,
usually have a drink when we do these. And the first time I met Roberto, I spilled a completely full drink across the table. We were out to dinner. And then he invited me to his house where I spilled 2 drinks on his game table.
Wow.
Yikes.
And you've
were
never been
consistent.
invited
So
So
back
who wants to
again.
invite me over next?
Yeah.
Come on over.
I have to remedy that. I was in I went to a Connecticut Gamer Con, but there was at Mohegan Sun. It's a casino, but one of the stores in there had like a Yeti, but it was something that was self-balancing at all times. So you could the underneath was a suction cup. So I ended up showing Meg this. I'm like, I'm gonna get this for you. So the next time I see you, nothing flies anywhere. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And I ask by show of hands, is anybody planning on PAX Unplugged
Yes.
by chance?
Not
Yeah.
this year.
I think I am. Like,
Maybe.
we'll see.
Assuming it
specifics, but-
happens, no one can stop me.
We're gonna sit
Perfect.
at a long table and talk to people.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would
Yes.
be awesome. By
That'd
the
be
way,
really
if
cool.
that can
That'd be
happen.
really cool. Yeah.
A Boardvengers panel? That's awesome. What a cool
Yeah.
idea.
It would be so cool.
I don't know if any of you have been back to an in-person con yet, but I got to go to my first in-person con in almost 2 years earlier this month. Went to a Gateway, part of Strategicon down in Los Angeles, and it was just good to see gamer friends in person again, all masked and vaccinated, but actually ran a table for the first time. Sold a bunch of games I was getting out of my collection and 3D printed wares and all that. But it was subdued for sure, but it was just great to get back out and play some games with people in the flesh again.
Yeah.
I saw
Very
the pictures of your table. It looked really cool.
Well, thanks.
I'm actually going to be, I'm going to have a booth at a local con. They call it TimpCon. It's really pretty small, but man, going through all of the prep work for it, it's unreal. The amount of like banners and just things that you have to have planned, like down to tables and just organizing all of it. I was very surprised.
A lot of work. Yeah.
What are you going to have at your booth?
So we should have launched by that time. It's in 2 weeks. Snack Time is on Kickstarter. There's a landing page there. Go to my profile, and in the bio, there's the link for the pre-launch page on Kickstarter. But yeah, this is one that I actually talked to Dalton and Nelson about when I was on their podcast.
Yep.
How long ago was that? It had to have been close to a year, right?
Too long. It was too long
Yeah.
ago.
Too long ago.
I was in Indiana. That's my only point of reference. It was at least, yeah.
I mean, I hadn't even started the Brandon Sanderson, like the latest Brandon Sanderson novel in the Stormlight archives. And now that's like finished and like forgotten almost. And I'm starting the Wheel of Time. Anyway, so much has happened. But yeah, that's what we're primarily going to be pushing. We're going to have the prototypes of Snack Time and kind of giving people the opportunity to not only back the Kickstarter there at our table, but also have an influence on design, because it's not completely set in stone. And so people can play test it, make suggestions, and hopefully it's just going to be a good networking opportunity with locals.
Nice.
Cool.
Can you tell us a
That's
little bit
cool.
about it?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a roll and write. And it's basically you have 5 manholes throughout kind of an Industrial Revolution era London. And these really derpy characters are walking past each of the manholes, and you have these little pet monsters in the sewer that need their 3 meals for the day. So you're trying to get them the correct situations to be able to reach up and, you know, take a nice bite out of one of these stupid pedestrians. And yeah, you're trying not to get apprehended by the cops the whole time. It's I think it's fun. It's pretty simple. Like there's not too much that's like groundbreaking or unique about it, but as a first, like as Backfire Games starts out on this quest of making board games, it's a low complexity but has some fun dice rolling, and yeah.
I think
Awesome.
any of us
Sounds
here
cool.
would play test your game. So if
Oh,
you
absolutely.
want to
I-
send it our way, we would definitely play it.
Well, it's also something that we could play over over a call. I would just have to email you the score sheet, and we could totally just roll the die and have an overhead cam, and it would be super easy to play. So if all of you are interested,
Yeah.
let's set it up, because that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
Sure. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that.
How many players does it
Cool.
go up to?
It's unlimited.
Because
So
it's
there's
just
no like
re-roll.
actual removal of elements. So as long as people have a score pad and are able to see the dice and the pedestrians, you can play with an unlimited number.
That's fun.
Nice.
I have also restarted the Wheel of Time based on the
I was-
teaser trailer for
I
the
was
Amazon
waiting. As soon
series.
as you said Wheel of Time, I wanted to be like, hold up, don't wait.
Don't open that. So wait, have you read all of them, including the last 3 by Brandon Sanderson and everything?
I have read every book, and I have also listened to.
I've
every
listened to all of
audiobook.
them. I haven't read, but I've listened to all of them.
Because
It's
there
the
was
same
a
thing.
time before I knew what a podcast was that I would listen to audiobooks when I ran, and I listened to the Wheel of Time.
Awesome. I'm just starting into the first book. I saw the trailer for the Amazon Prime, and I was like, I just really should. And so I started it. Some people had said it was super slow. That's not been my experience. I actually really enjoy the pacing of it so far.
The first book is great. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it
first
gets
3 books are
slower.
great.
Later on, it slows
Really?
down.
I
Yeah.
heard the new author makes it so much better. From what I
Brandon,
understand. So
if you
someone
like, if
said
you like his writing, yeah.
Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones combined. That's how
Mhm.
that was presented to me.
Yeah. Brandon
Yeah,
Sanderson's amazing. I
True.
love him.
It's
I like
facts.
what Jason's doing there, because I like the Stormlight Archive. I like Brandon Sanderson. It's probably better than the Wheel of Time. Do I like Brandon Sanderson writing the Wheel of Time? Not
Mm,
really.
I know. That's how I am too.
Fair.
That's how I am too.
It was fine. It finished it. It was like somebody told me what happened, but I didn't actually read the books.
Yeah.
You're in
And
the
Sanderson's
fantasy.
just so different with his world building and how he does magic, and then trying to like get him into like, you know, something that's already set up for him. It kind of feels weird. Like
Yeah.
A little
it
weird.
doesn't quite feel right. But it's fine.
Good to know.
It's yeah.
Nelson and I have been procrastinating it for like the longest time.
That's probably not a bad thing.
It's like, do I have like 6 to 9 months to like dedicate to this, right?
Yeah, right.
There's so
Hey,
much
if you're
else to do.
interested, I'm starting so we can go through it together. I'm
That's
gonna
not
go
a
through
bad
it like
idea.
super leisurely, by the way. But
Let's do it.
I also have like a couple other book clubs that I'm part of. We're reading Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is also so good for October. If you want a quick read that's just full of like good, deep, like one-liners, it's excellent.
Yeah, I'd be really down for that.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we need, is someone to like actually push us to do it, right? It's just not gonna happen.
How
Speaking
was
of
Gen
it,
Con?
yeah,
It was really good. It was really different. Like, so normally I think in like 2019 they had about 70,000 people there, and this year they had about 35,000. So it's about half the size, which is still like absurdly large. Like, right, you have 35,000 gamers, but it was definitely different. It was nice. Like, I mean, there were a lot of people there for their first time. So I met like Evan and Alex from Being Friends. They were there for their first time and they thought it was awesome. And then I'm like, I'm kind of here like, oh man, I was like ready to come back to 70,000 people. And a lot of publishers have pulled out, like Asmodee wasn't there. And so all their subsidiaries weren't there. And so that was kind of a double-edged sword, right? You didn't get to see all of that. I don't know if that was the right term, but then you also got to go and like see all the smaller publishers, right? You got to spend time and talk to designers and everything. And so that was really cool. So no, I really liked it. I think it was a different experience. I still really enjoyed it, but I'm ready for it to get back to normal.
With Asmodee, do you think it was them not showing up because of all the Marvel stuff? Like all these angry fans just being like, why is my game delayed like 6 months?
Yeah, that was definitely the primary factor. I think COVID played a secondary role there.
What'd you say?
It's I don't really know what it means. I've just heard it. I've just heard it.
I haven't even heard of it. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it was good. I got to meet a lot of people, which was kind of cool. So there was Chris, charity board gamer, he was there. He organized like a meetup. And so just kind of everyone that I've been talking to for 2 years online, got to see most of them, or a lot of them in person. And I'm excited to go to PAX and meet a lot of other people. And eventually I'll meet everybody. It's just kind of cool.
I'm going to give you the biggest hug. It's going to be
I'm
awesome.
so excited.
I want in on that.
Can I just say, like, meeting up with gamers is like so great. Like every time I meet somebody who I've met through like this or Instagram or whatever, man, it's fantastic every time. Like, it's just, we have the best community, and I love finally getting to meet people and get to know them and stuff, and it always turns out great.
Yeah
Amen. I agree. I don't know if all of you saw I posted it on my Instagram stories, but somebody just reached out to me on Instagram and they're like, hey, I have something that I want to give you. Like, I was expecting to get murdered in the parking lot, quite honestly. Never met the person, but he was local. And so we met up, and he just had bought me a copy of Arkham Horror LCG because we had talked about it. He said that he loved it. And I was just like, oh, it's one that I've had my eye on. And so he just bought it for me. I was like, oh my gosh. And so now he's actually going to help run the booth at the con.
That's awesome.
My business partner won't be there. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, you're cool.
Yeah.
Let's hang out together for 2 days.
Awesome.
Certified cool dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. So McKay, let me ask you with that. Do you like money or no? Because hopefully you don't.
I know, right? I looked into it. Literally, like the next couple of days, I bought another copy of the game plus one of the expansions because I was like, if I can only play this with 2 people, how often is it actually going to get to the table? And I got one for free, so I mean, it's like I have to upgrade to the 4 players, and then got one of the expansions. And I actually didn't know that it was like a legacy format, that it actually had like these stories that you play through, but it makes me so much happier to know that it is. I get suckered into stories in games so much.
And there's so many branching paths. Like I'll finish a cycle and be like, oh my God, there was like 15 other endings. I gotta go back and do this. Like it's so cool.
Man. And I love that I can play it solo too, because that's just a big issue with games, is that I don't know, if especially a horror themed game, I don't have a ton of friends that are super into the horror genre.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I feel like it's pretty limited, but if I can play through like just stories by myself, it's just like me reading a novel, right?
Yep. Pretty much. A more fun novel. Yeah.
Right.
I am well into Marvel Champions. My son bought Marble Champions, the core, and now I'm so hooked on that game. When we're together, you want to play this game? You want to beat
So
Ultron
good.
at like the at the hardest difficulty? Yeah, Dad, we can do that. And it's like it's so fun to spend time with him playing this game. But I didn't think that card games could be how that is presented. So now I bought like Captain, I bought Doctor Strange. It's getting out of control right now. I ended up
Good.
getting the Red Skull
Spend your money.
expansion.
Yes,
Yeah.
Red Skull's so good.
Let's go.
We haven't played it yet. He had to go to karate. He had to tutor or be with the
Skip
younger
it.
class. So
Oh, he's the real superhero.
yeah, he is. He is. When he does his katas, it looks like he's just swimming in water. He's like, yeah, he's really cool. But we weren't able to play it. He had to go be a teacher to the younger kids. But when I see him this weekend, we will definitely play that.
And then you have to get acrylic for the game too, because you need the acrylic accessories. I mean, it's just it's a rabbit hole you're gonna go down.
It makes the game so much better.
It really
This
does.
whole hobby is a rabbit hole, man. I mean, it's
It's
how.
very true.
Ugh.
No, you would think
upgrade
that.
for your upgrades.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get the upgrades, it's just a deeper rabbit hole. Like you just keep falling down.
I'm pretty
Dave,
sure
do
I
you
have
make
like
the upgrades?
3 copies of Wingspan because of all the upgrades I own.
That's true.
I was very surprised at how much I wanted the speckled eggs when they came out. I was like, oh my gosh, I want them so badly.
I know.
Like no actual additional value, like not even bigger or anything. I was just like, but they're speckled.
They look so edible though. That's my main concern. Like,
Right.
they look like little
Yes,
apple,
I-
you know?
I
I always
would-
lose one or two each play.
Kinda chewy.
Just put them out with Cadbury like robin eggs, like as you're playing, and just see how many people you can get to bite down on one of your expensive speckled eggs.
I definitely did that while we played one time. I would hide the chocolate ones in there and then try to trick Ben.
The
whole
problem is
time.
the chocolate ones are bigger, so it was like
They were
really
slightly
obvious.
bigger,
but now
but-
there's like always like little pieces of
Yeah,
chocolate
there are.
and eggshell in with the
Sorry.
real eggs, like a big mess. that
I
you
think
made.
one time we found one like months later, like hidden in something too. So I should probably not do that. But
Yeah, maybe not.
whatever, you
So
can
a
wash
fun
off those eggs.
A fun story about like why cool things don't happen with big companies. When I was working at Hasbro, we were doing a copy of Monopoly, and there was it was Snow White's apple was supposed to be in there, and we wanted it like gilded red, like metallic, and they said we couldn't make it red because then it resembled a real apple too much, and then it would be like a choking hazard. I was like, it is literally like the size of a thumbtack, like,
Yeah.
but it resembles an apple way too much. Anyway, there's some crazy hoops you have to jump through when you get down to that.
I can
Love it.
imagine.
Natural selection, man.
Yeah,
They're already
right?
playing
No, right?
Monopoly.
Right.
Like, that's
Yeah.
a good group to cull, you know.
Yeah.
This is how we breed a new era of gamers.
Dalton, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. A lot of the listeners on our podcast know that I moved about 3 months ago. Unintended side effect is like you lose all of your gaming groups, right? All of your in-person gaming groups. Now you have to like kind of start from zero. So there's been a lot of online gaming in my life. We organized one through our Discord. So 18xx.games has seen a lot of activity. Tabletop Simulator obviously has seen a lot of activity. Nelson and I have been trying to play Champions. We've not been as successful as Jason. Just so you know, Jason, he prioritizes you over me. I'm not mad about it.
please, someone
That's
cares
fine.
about me.
Well, this got awkward.
Every
Wait, so we
Wednesday,
tell
I'm
them
like, are
about
you
the
busy?
podcast?
Oh, no. Oh, man. It hurts. But, and through the ages, like mobile app has seen a lot of play. Also chess. I don't know how that worked its way in, but mobile chess has seen a lot of play. Like wake up in the morning and like check my games, and my fiance now is like, what are you doing? Like, are you playing chess at 6 a.m? It's like, well, I just want to see what they did. So that's been most of what my gaming experience has been like past couple of months.
Excellent. How so with the, because now you are in Colorado.
Yep.
Nelson's in Indiana. How's the podcast going along? Is it easier? Is it not the same? I mean, I know there's nothing like having your best friend next to you and
For sure.
having that energy there. Like, how has it changed the podcast at all? Or are you still just flowing through?
No, that's a good question. Like, so COVID helped a little bit with this, right? Because we had a couple of months of practice basically where we were recording mobily. So we, like, in terms of logistically and technically, we kind of already had that part figured out. I think the harder thing has been like a big portion of our podcast will be talking about the games that we're playing together, and we're playing fewer games together, right? So we're kind of having to like sort of patch that up and make sure that we still have like content to share there. And there was also a little bit of learning, like we both will generally stand now. Because we were finding that like our voices were significantly quieter and our energy was a lot lower because we are both introverts when we were sitting and recording. And so now we'll like when we're recording main episodes, we'll stand up and shout at each other, and that like helps our helps our content a little bit. So yeah, some learning points there, but I think overall like the quality of our content has been like relatively consistent. Just a couple challenges for us to figure out.
Yeah. Downside, we now have to record really late because Dalton's like way behind me in time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whenever
I
I
want
want,
to be fine for me.
whenever I want to record, he's at work. And upside, it's
Man,
way
what a
easier to
loser.
edit. It's way easier to edit.
Yeah,
there's no echo into the other person's mic or anything.
yeah, that's
So
true.
You all have jobs?
if I
Yeah,
can
what the
figure out how to
heck?
make this my job, I'll sell out.
Right. Yeah. In the sense that we have to do something we don't like doing in order to make money. Yes, we have jobs.
So wait, I want to know whose idea was it to be like, we're not doing this right. We need to stand up.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never
'cause
would have even thought of that.
I was just like, I was falling asleep when it was getting around 10.
Yeah. Yeah. It started that way.
Okay, I guess I can see that. That's
need to stay
interesting
awake.
though. I never would have thought of that.
But
You don't get to know.
But yeah, I took my wife's yoga mat. Now I have that to stand on, so my feet are comfy. It's great.
Anti-fatigue.
Man,
mat, right?
nice.
Extra grip on the toes. I like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
That's right. I can still make his toes curl.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Meg is like, that was gross.
Yeah, right. Gotta put a warning on this.
Yeah, no, we have the E. We have the little E next to our podcast, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Okay.
I have
E
to
for
say,
explicit,
I
not for
loved
everyone.
the Star Wars episode.
Good.
There were a couple times where, because I was listening to it with the headphones on, I laughed out loud.
I was
The
telling Nelson,
prequel
I
one?
think that's our funniest episode. I think the
Yeah.
prequel episode. There's
There
so
was
much
a few
content there to
couple
like
quick
meme and
ones,
joke
but-
about it. But
Yeah. No, it was definitely a lot of fun to record.
yeah, for sure. Thank you.
How's
What's my-
Gloomhaven life, Meg?
Gloomhaven?
Yes.
Sad. It's only sad. You were talking about Marvel Champions being like, yeah, let's go. And I was like, my game that I used to do that with finished now. So we have Forgotten Circles to start, which we haven't yet. I'm kind of like, I'm sad about it. It's a game that we spent like 2 years with that I didn't think I'd get so emotional, I guess, about it. But yeah, I can't set up scenarios ahead of time the way I used to. Like I would like pre-grab like the tiles and the enemies and stuff, and it's just like now looking in the game room, it's like there's so many games I've been waiting to play that we want to play more of, like Dwellings. But it's sad. It's really sad.
Could you play Gloomhaven again? If you had a fresh copy,
Yeah.
could you do another? Could it end differently? I guess
Yeah.
is what I'm asking, because we actually sold Gloomhaven. I know. I'm sorry, guys, but
That's okay.
I'm really not sure as to how that goes. How many endings does this game have?
I think, and spoiler alert, I guess, and I won't say anything too spoilery. I think it's the same ending, but who you are at the end could be different. So
Okay.
I think the final scenario is always the final scenario, but where your characters, like what mark they left on Gloomhaven would change. So, like, just to generalize, we were mostly good guys. And I know you can pretty much be very bad.
Yeah.
And there's like everywhere in between. So we could definitely do the darkest timeline.
We were
and
very
I have
bad.
friends that we're gonna start Jaws of the Line again, so we'll do a 4-player Jaws of the Line, which is fun. So
And with like Gloomhaven, there's like a bunch of quests you can like miss, right? Like essentially. So if you went back and played it, you'd be like, oh, we never went down this
That-
path.
and luckily, I think with where we are, there's even stuff that we didn't get to unlock, but Forgotten Circles will help us. So even though that adds like X amount of scenarios, because you have to do road and city events in between, we can unlock even more that we couldn't really unlock in Gloomhaven before. So there's still a little bit of the main game left for us, but we have to like fish it out.
Now, did you play the solo scenarios with the characters? Because I know,
No.
like, when you get to level 5, right, you can play the solo scenarios with each of the characters, and it's kind of like a puzzle for that
Is
class.
it? I don't remember that.
Well, you didn't. We
Yeah.
never did that, but
Okay, it was like, I
those
don't
do
remember
exist.
the
It's like a
scenario.
puzzle for each class to
Oh.
play.
Yeah.
They're
And you
really
get
cool.
like a very
They're
good
really
item
cool.
for them. And that's like as much as I know because I haven't looked into what the items are. But it's kind of like you get a boon for your class for completing it by yourself. But I didn't try any of them yet.
Oh, I totally cheated and looked at what they were.
That's like you in a nutshell. Is like, let me just look at the ending quick.
Yeah,
I
know,
do
me and
minor
Roberto
spoilers. Like I'll look ahead to see like requirements for what the next scenario will be and stuff like that to be like, can I do it? But there is a lot that I really so the main secret of Gloomhaven for anyone that's played it, the thing that you keep getting clues for, I still haven't figured out. So don't
It's
tell
almost
me.
impossible.
It's
So
hard.
I talked to someone online about it, not to toot my own horn, but I mentioned things and they were like, "Wow, you figured that out on your own." Because there are letters hidden in different things in the game, and I haven't looked any of it up, but I have found some letters in some places. So
That's impressive.
That's pretty cool.
Oh man, one
Well-
of my friends, he solved the key. He solved the cipher without the key.
Of
He
course.
just wrote it all out, and he was like, "Oh, well, this is probably E is the most common letter here, so this is probably an E, and this is probably a the. So these letters are probably this." And he solved the whole thing, and I was like, "Well,
Was
that
it
kind of
Ryan
takes the
Quinn?
fun out of it."
Yeah,
Ryan?
Yeah,
Yeah, of course it was.
that's
He's-
funny.
I think
Like
I think we
next
found our
level
panel.
genius. Yeah.
for PAX Unplugged. We're talking about Gloomhaven, and Meg will be the hard carry.
okay.
She's absolutely
box
down.
it. We need a box of Kleenex for that though, just in case. So
Jason, what is how is the woodworking?
It's not bad. It's slowing down. Wintertime always slows down, and then come Christmas time it'll pick back up. So it's been good. Yeah, it's sad though, because I haven't bought any new tools because I don't need any, but like I should just buy some anyway. It's like a board game, right? You should just get it to have it. So
Well, it's
like an
all your money's
expansion.
going to too many bones, really. That's why you don't have new tools, right? Everything's going to too many bones.
I have it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to get for too many bones. I have all that. I'm waiting for the Kickstarter now.
Yeah, I'm launching a new one.
I can't wait for that thing. I don't even know what it's about. I don't even care. I just saw
I-
new Too Many Bones. I want it.
I hear it's the final, right? It's the final
Yeah.
installment.
Which we were all kind of shocked about because we figured they would milk that cow for years. And apparently the internal discussion was we don't want to like do that to the series. So I was like, well, good for you guys. That was an interesting move.
Quickly, speaking of milking that cow, did anyone see the Stefan Feld Kickstarter?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, the city collection, the $725 all in.
yeah.
what?
Yeah,
To look this up.
what?
for 4 games. Yeah.
$700 for 4 games?
And they're wondering why it's not doing well.
Which one is
Everything
it?
changed. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Hot off the presses.
While he looks that
no.
up,
Do-
No,
do-
Hey.
what's
do- do- do-
happening?
while we're on the topic, Jason, you play a lot of solo games, right?
Yeah, that's a
Have
pretty
you
much what
ever-
I do.
Have you ever played Hostage Negotiator?
No, but I really want to.
I watched that shut up and sit down video, and I couldn't resist. I got the whole thing.
got,
I
like,
bought the whole shebang.
Yes.
Hmm.
I played it twice today already, and I lost both times horribly.
Was it good though? Was it fun?
It was good. It was
Yeah.
good, but you're so connected to the dice rolls in that game, man, and they screwed me over.
Yeah.
That's what I hear about that one. I hear it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Hard to win.
Let me keep going. I gotta try again. I gotta find a
Yeah.
table in my house I can leave it set up on that no kids will touch.
It's not
Mm.
kids, it's cats. You gotta watch
Yeah,
out for cats.
It's Emily. That's who it is.
I'm at night doing the
So
Well,
long
clearly-
story short,
clearly
you're
I'm
not a
not
very
good
good
at
hostage
Googling.
negotiator. Yeah.
Not yet.
It's not.
Not yet. That's for sure.
I am not good at Googling. For some reason, it didn't pop up. Well, it's New York, Marrakesh, and 2 others or 1 other.
Yeah,
Let's get to what's-
Amsterdam and
Hamburg.
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 Thank you. And a couple of them are kind of re-skins, like redesigns of previous games, like Bruges, I think, became Amsterdam, and there's another one. And then there's a couple of them are newer games. And they're doing nice pieces and all that, but it's an awful big pill for 4 games.
Yeah, I
That
don't know.
means a ton.
about that.
$700.
You don't know
You
about
get
that.
the
The
I don't know
answer is
about that.
no. Like
Ah, there it is.
How much
I
does
see it
Castles
now.
of Burgundy cost? Like $30.
Yeah,
I'll just go
right.
buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean their lowest pledge level is $65 for just Hamburg.
I
Well,
mean,
here we go. We got a
Hey,
link to the Kickstarter.
there
Let
you
me
go.
check
I
this
know.
out.
Now we all
Thank
pull
you,
it up.
thank you, Jason. We're gonna look at this link to the Kickstarter quickly.
and while you're loading it,
I'll-
I mean, Kickstarter
I'll
prices
pay
have
some
gotten
money for it.
insane.
They
gotten
really
insane.
have.
These
Yeah.
are like old games, though.
Yeah.
Like, why would I pay $700 for old games?
Because you want the
But the
coin sets.
components.
Because you want those Steffenfeld dice. That's why. Oh, coins. I'm sorry.
Totally.
That
Fun
is
fact,
why.
Yeah,
like
man.
metal coins aren't actually that expensive to include in a game. I priced it out the other day. I was like, they charge like the amount that they get back on their return with metal coins is absurd.
Nice.
I love that
Same.
there's like 650-ish backers and like $165,000 pledged.
Right.
Like, that does not look like it adds up.
Doesn't look that.
Oh man, look, one person. Why did one person back the $715
probably like
bundle
someone who
instead of the
works
$690
At the
bundle?
company.
There's
Because of that Steffenfeld coin set. You get that extra coin set. You need it.
No, it's just one of their moms. You know that's the case.
My baby boy's
Right,
doing
that's
so
it.
good. I
He's
gotta
on the
do it.
Kickstarter.
Gosh, that's
We're probably
insane.
offending so many people right now.
This is perfect though. We're talking about great components, upgrading some Steffenfeld games.
Man, are you gonna like?
I think that leads us directly into
Oh,
our
Ooh.
topic for
Oh.
today.
That's
Oh,
fair.
Oh,
Me
podcast.
too.
You should have
Okay.
a podcast.
okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to
Beat me
start
to
one.
it.
What
It's almost
are we
like-
talking about tonight?
It's almost like these deluxe components make for great table presents.
Oh man.
Oh,
Mm.
that's it. That is our topic of discussion for this evening. Is what makes a great, well, what game is great for table presents? What in your mind thinks, or what do you think great table presents is? What is represented by it? So on and so forth. And I would like, let's get someone to start. I'm going to start off with Jason is saying no, so I'm going to start with Jason.
No.
Jason, table
Means
presents.
no.
Got him.
Got him.
So before we
Secondary.
even talk about the games that we want to talk about, what makes table presents for you?
So for me, table presence is a lot of times it's a game that I might not be initially interested in if you told me the presence of it, right? Somebody tries to explain the game to me and I don't fully understand what you're saying, or I go, that sounds like a reused mechanic. And they go, no, let me set it up. Let me show it to you. And they set up and show it to me. I'm like, oh, okay. Like this is interesting, right? That's the initial hook into the game that I'm willing to take the extra steps to either learn a difficult game or maybe learn a game that I wasn't initially interested in. So for me, that's what table presence means.
Excellent. Dave?
Yeah, man, I think it's just something that draws you in, that draws your attention and really makes you interested. It could be that it's immersive. It could be that it's, kind of sprawls. It could be that there's just that one aesthetic element that is unique enough to, hey, what's that, right? So something that is just gives you that attention and draws you in and makes you want to explore.
Dalton?
It's a funny concept, I think, especially for Nelson and I, because we rate theme in general pretty low in like what determines whether we're going to play a game or not. Like we play a lot of train games and stuff that like barely has a theme at all. So for me, it's like if something can overcome that, then it's pretty special, right? If it can overcome and get me interested in the theme as a reason to play the game, which is normally not something that would entice me to play a game, I guess, then that's something pretty special.
I'll follow that with with Nelson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also I kind of think you hear the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. And I feel like that's kind of what this topic is, right? It's the things that, you walk by the table and you see, I want to see what that is. Tell me more about this. And it's what draws you into a game. And so that's kind of what I think about as table presence is if I'm walking by it or if I see it, I want to know more about it.
How about Ben and M?
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo that, right? Like when I was trying to decide what game to pick, it was totally like, okay, all of the games I like, the games I've played, like if it was on the table and I was walking by, what would make me walk up to the table and be like, hey, what game is that? Like, what is this? Like
Yeah.
there's so much there, or it draws your attention so much that you're like, I got to find out what this is.
I don't know. I like everyone's already said really good points. I totally agree. It's that, yeah, you pass by and you're like, hold up, I want to know more.
Meg?
To me, when I think table presence, I think with board games, I really like to feel them and feel what's going on. And when I think of table presence, I think of like when the board game stops being a board game. So if you're in a situation and, win or lose at the end of the night, you're just going to go to bed. So if you start getting nervous about an income or like or an outcome and you're really into it, that's when I think it has great table presence, because you kind of stop seeing the board for being a board and you start being there.
McKay?
Yeah, in addition to what everyone else has said, I think my thoughts were along the lines of Meg's as well, that it's because my first impulse was like, okay, what's the biggest game that I have? Like, what one takes up the most space? And I was like, seems like a pretty lame way to judge like its actual like presence on the table. And to me, I think it's whether the visuals and components convey the theme to the point that you look at it and your mind immediately kind of like puts together the story. And it's just immediately, I think, well, I won't list any games actually, because that's that's what we do here. But just, can I look at a game and immediately I can start putting together in my head, this is probably what you're trying to do. And this is probably like the sequence of the game and the aim of the game, just because all of that kind of clicks together. It's relatable and it's demonstrated visually really well on the table.
All great points. I love that having you pass, or you're playing a game and it feels electrifying. It's palpable, right? And to everyone's point of, if you pass it, if you see someone playing it, like, what is that? I really need to know what this is for any reason, really. But great points all around. I would like to now go into the table presence or the games that we brought here. So I was going to start with Jason, but we started that whole thing off. But McKay, since you went last, how about you go first?
It was hard for me to try and identify one that had a really good table presence. There were several that came to mind. And I also there are a couple games that, once again, I won't name because I don't want to take anybody else's, but there were a couple that I thought of and I was like, that's just expected. That could fit into so many categories right now because it's popular and it's really buzzworthy. But one that I played recently that is not new, and I was blown away by just how, just like the depth that came with it, and just the overall visual presence that happened. I don't know if any of you have played Ghost Stories. It's designed Antoine Bauza. I believe it's Repos Productions that does it. If you don't know the game, each side of the board is for a different player, and they're all like this nice, like really dark but kind of electrifying neon color gradient all going into the center. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep the village from getting haunted and kind of haunting these different tiles in the middle. So you start out with this very pretty, like colorful game. And as Ghost comes out and they start eating parts of the village, it all just kind of turns like gray and black and dingy. And the movers all have some really great momentum to them. The ghosts, that like the little ghost movers, have like this forward leaning direction that looks like they're just going to topple over. It's amazing that they even stand upright. Really well designed. The poses of the individual wizards that you are, I guess they're not really wizards, they're Taoists, I believe. I don't know, just everything in there, the art, the structure, all of the components, just when it all comes together, it just leaps off the table to me.
This is interesting because I've played Last Bastion, right, which is the remake of Ghost Stories. Okay. Great game, but I wouldn't say all the things that you said, the colors, the ghosts and all that stuff.
I feel like the new one,
Last Bastion doesn't have that.
It's kind of like, it's fine.
It makes you want to play the original.
Yeah, I was trying to look up pictures to see what the difference was.
I actually did not know that it was a remake. Oh yeah, it looks exactly like, as far as like the setup and stuff. But I can totally see what you mean.
But it's like little red skulls instead of like the ghosts. It doesn't have, like you said, the leaning forward, the cool, like the board isn't quite as colorful either or anything.
Yeah,
I got the wrong one, I guess.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Ben. Because
well, I don't know what else has been improved by it. Maybe other things were improved, but yeah, I just also they're gray. Is that so they could be painted? You can also paint over colors. Why do they make components gray?
Cheap.
I don't like it.
I don't know.
That's
Now
interesting.
is
Now I
last
want to know if that's. Yeah, I want to know how similar they are now.
yeah, because I want to know, is Last Bastion like as difficult as Ghost Stories? Because Ghost Stories is like rough. That's a rough.
It's
game.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. It was hard when we played one way and it totally was, there's no way we can do it. So then we played and switched it up slightly and it was more doable, but it was still tricky. But I've never played Ghost Stories, so I don't know.
Well, we played it where we each ran 2 characters.
The first time though, we each did one.
Yeah,
And
that
it
didn't
was
work.
like, there's no way we can keep up.
But I don't know, like, because then you can up the difficulty by putting in more, like
Mhm.
they're called like warlords or something.
Or-
I
yeah,
don't
I don't know.
remember. I don't know how different the 2 are.
Okay.
It is similar in what you were saying, how it's like each side
Right.
kind of yeah. So the board looks similar, but it definitely the pieces and components are a little bit different.
We talk really quick though about like how. So just looking at this, and I'm not speaking from experience because I haven't played Last Bastion. I haven't taken a good look at it. It just seems like the story has just kind of dried up in this one. Is it just like it's a castle and you're just trying to defend the castle walls?
Yep. It's
Yeah.
like generic fantasy castle defense.
That makes me so sad because Ghost Stories is very steeped in Chinese culture and legend and myth. And I don't know, all of the places, like all the different temples and shrines that you go to do different things throughout the village and stuff. There's just like some real richness there that kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone as far as theme goes, where I was like, oh man, like we're looking at like all of these typical like Buddhist and Taoist items, then like the Chinese magic side of it. I assume they redid it to make it a little bit more approachable, but I think some of that depth and interest kind of dries up a little bit.
Darn.
Well, great.
Yeah. Oh well.
Looks like
There
we have to
is a
buy a new
Reddit
game.
thread.
Yeah, I got to on the
Anyone-
hunt now.
Would anyone like to purchase?
Yeah.
Sold it really well. So
Yeah. It's really fun.
There's a Reddit thread on r/board games about Ghost Stories versus Last Bastion. So there's some interesting things there if you want to look further into that, because Reddit is, as we know, the biggest rabbit hole there is.
It is.
It's true. Yep.
It's interesting that I've never played either or, but I like that Ghost Stories is steeped in that culture. Like you said, I might have to check into playing that. That sounds really cool. Like when games can teach you something or put you in a place, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Who do you want to pick?
Ooh, I get to pick.
Yeah.
Pick.
Pick whoever you want.
I'm just gonna keep going in the reverse order. Let's pass it over to Meg.
Okay. So for my game for table presents, you would think I would pick something pretty and colorful, but I picked Dead of Winter.
Ooh, nice.
Dead of Winter, I think what I thought of recently is I taught someone the game, and I started explaining it as I started pulling everything out. And then I pulled out all the zombies, and they found the zombie tokens at the end, and they were like, what are these for? And I was like, oh, that's for when we run out of zombies. And they were like, what? So I think even before you play, seeing how much overrun you're going to be is really, really overwhelming. Like from the beginning, you are stressed. You feel like you're probably not going to be able to do it. You know that there may be a traitor in your midst. I think it's a game that can really put you on your edge, even though, like I said, like, at the end of the day, a board game's not going to hurt you. You're going to go to bed at the end of the night. If you get eaten by zombies, it's okay. But I think it really, really gives you that stress and anxiety and makes you want to figure it out and make sure everyone's safe. So yeah, I really love Dead of Winter. And I think too, because of the locations that you travel to, they're like separate pieces for the board. It does a couple things where it can also have the presence of you can adjust to wherever you need to play at. Like you can play around a TV if you wanted to. If you only have a coffee table, you can play at a really big table or a smaller table. But it also shows you how isolated those characters become when they get moved over there. That I think visually it really helps you understand the zombie world that you're in. Out of everything, I would have picked Gloomhaven if I could pick the same game twice. But yeah, I think seeing other people's reactions now, showing them games, that's the one that I get probably the biggest reaction every time.
That's a great choice. You can find me at the police station all day long, Just give me all the guns.
I just
And
need
I'll
Sparky.
kill the
Sparky
zombies,
needs a
yeah.
gun. Yeah.
I appreciate too that you picked a game that has table presence with standees, not minis, and it can still accomplish that without having to have the, kind of the over the top plastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a very
Fights,
simple
all
game,
monsters.
components wise.
Standees come pre-painted. That's my favorite part about standees. As somebody who paints, I love that standees come pre-painted.
They don't say that on the Kickstarter. The regular version.
Pre-painted
retail-
standees.
pre-painted.
I don't like a bunch of gray plastic, right? If it's all plastic, I gotta paint it. If
Yeah,
it comes
that
with
is true.
standees, then I don't have to.
I agree.
That's true.
There's one mechanism in Dead of Winter that I just thought was brilliant, and that's the risk of like exposure to the virus and stuff as you like every time you leave. That it has to happen, that you have to go look for supplies and stuff. But man, the anxiety of that die roll and just whether or not you're going to be damaged from exposure, risk that person dying basically.
The very last
Having
time
the
I played, when
virus.
I showed that person the game, my very first movement out of the place, I died immediately. We were like,
Oh.
oh, this can
That's
happen. It's
good.
really rare. It doesn't usually happen. Immediately, I died. The very first roll I did.
It happens in 1 in 12 games.
Having played that game prepared me for like the first 3 months of like COVID and trying to go to Costco. Like I felt rolling the exposure die just to get toilet paper.
They're banging on the
gosh.
barricades.
So I
Is it
want to
either
sound.
I wonder if it needs a retheming of Dead of Winter into like Dead of COVID or something like that.
Too soon.
Too soon? Okay. We'll wait a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a fun memory of my like two young nephews who it would kind of become my duty around like Christmas time to like distract them with a board game. And so like I started setting up Dead of Winter. And they were like, we don't want to play a board game or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll see. And then like as you're like setting it up, right? And they like kind of kept walking by and like glancing at it, and they're like, so what's this game about? And you're like, well, you get to kill zombies, and then just kind of keep setting it up. And by the end, they were like sitting down to play it. So it definitely accomplishes the table presence. I agree with your pick.
I like that game because of the secret trader. You don't know the entire. You have no idea the entire time, and I really like being a trader in games and backstabbing people.
But can we talk about why there's a traitor? Maybe I missed a part of the story. Like, is somebody like, are they actually like an undercover zombie, or are they just like, no, we just want to like, are they just chaotic? Like,
I feel like I'm having trouble believing that you don't believe this, given the year that we've just had. You think that there aren't people on the side of the virus?
It's true.
Yeah, I think the thought is that it's someone who like defects, who chooses to let people die so they have more food and that kind of stuff.
Oh, so it's more of like I should survive instead of you. It's
yeah, like I
less-
only
it's-
care about me.
I
My
never
goal,
thought of that.
my secret objective is more important than the team's secret objective.
That's
There
great.
is a guy
I
in
love
my
that.
game group who like his goal is to be the trader in every game. And so even if he isn't the trader, we all think he is. So then the trader always wins.
Is it Phil?
Oh yeah.
Yes, I just enjoy that. I'm never at your game group, and like
You know
I feel
exactly who
like I
it
know
is.
who it is. Sorry.
Yeah, the last time we played that, the trader had everyone convinced that I was the trader, even though they were the trader, and she was just like, gleaming
That's-
the whole time. It was like,
Totally what you would do to me.
yeah.
And I'm like yelling at you at the table, and everyone's like, I think he knows what he's talking
I'm a
about.
trustworthy
No,
gentleman.
you are
Yeah.
not. Never. No.
Maybe if we all get together in the future, or when we get together in the future, we can get
That's correction.
both copies of Dead of Winter and The Long Night, and then play faction versus faction, because I
Yeah,
haven't
they have
played
like
that.
the colony war thing, right?
Yeah, it's about 11 or 12 player game, which sounds crazy.
Yeah. Someday we'll just have Boardvengers Con, right?
Ooh.
That's gonna be a thing.
Okay.
someday.
Whoa.
Okay.
That's please.
Now we're talking.
Yes, hosted in Michigan at Ben and M's house.
Okay.
Can't wait to meet the kittens.
Yes.
And there won't be kittens anymore.
Yeah. Old fat cats.
I assumed it was like next week, so
That works.
Hey, you guys are welcome anytime.
I bought my ticket. I don't know about y'all.
oh man.
Great choice, Meg. Who do you wanna have next?
How
Who's
about
up
you,
next?
Roberto?
Me?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Got
And
him.
what? That's not part of
Ugh.
it. He's
I'm like
I don't want anyone to
I'm
forget you
like
at the end.
I'm that dude in What If. I'm just the narrator. I'm a poor narrator. If anyone's seen What If, that show is pretty incredible. But I don't want to derail the talk right now. Mine is, it's a game that really got me into dudes on a map. I had played lighter games, and this was my first kind of heavier strategy game. And it's how I met one of my really good friends. And it's Cthulhu Wars by Sandy Peterson.
Whoa.
Nice.
This game, when it first came out, he's like, yeah, this game, he was so animated. This game is awesome. You're like, you could be Cthulhu, and the minis are like this big being about 5 inch. These minis are huge. Not only are they huge minis, they're also a standard box of Crayola colors. So you get like lime green, this beautiful sky blue, like blood red, and yellow. Like if you can think of a color, it's more than likely going to be in this game. So it's in the H.P. Lovecraft mythos. Love that. It's again, dudes on a map. Everyone has cultists. You have to summon some monsters. You have to summon an elder god, and from there it's just combat until you get 30 victory points to win the game. Now, when this game is on the table, depending on what size board you have, the 3 to 5 player and the 5 player map out of the box, out of the core box, is kind of small. So I ended up getting a bigger map, so that way the dudes on the map, if you will, had more space, because the continents are divided and they're very small spaced. So I had to get the bigger version in order to make it look more, I guess, less full. Is we had played 8 players, and this was also pre-COVID. When we played 8 players, you look at the board and you're like, whoa, this is so cool, because you get pink, blue, red, green, yellow, just Roy G. Biv all over the place. And these minis are huge. You put out a grade old one and you feel like you're putting something massive down, because again, these things are very heavy plastic or injection molded plastic, and you put them on and they make a thunk, like doosh. If you want to do that sound effect, you can too. But I love area control. I love the asymmetry. No faction feels like another faction. And from what I understand, I haven't been to a con yet, but when this game comes out in cons, people watch, because I think it's the colors is the biggest draw, because it looks like Crayola colors right out of the box. It's so cool.
All right, so what are we playing?
Yeah.
We can play this one tomorrow if you want.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
We're
close. You got me with Cthulhu, colors, okay.
Yes.
Miniatures, sure.
We just played this the other day. Evangelo wanted to play it, and it's not a game that hits our table often, because it does play better at higher player counts. At 2 players, actually, Sandy Peterson made Cthulhu Wars Duel, because for 2 players in the regular Cthulhu Wars, the only way you can win is by battling each other. And there's some factions who just don't battle. You can be passive. You don't even have to battle at all if you don't want to. Some factions are super aggressive, but he made the Cthulhu Wars Duel to remedy it, because once you get 2 people on a 2 to 4 players, on the 2 to 4 player side or whatever, it's just a big space, and you can't do much with as much space as there is.
It's a game that I have seen and wanted to try for so long. It looks incredible. It sounds amazing. Like the asymmetry, I really love. I love that idea, and how you kind of get to build your own faction type deal. And so it's one that just like cost prohibitive that I just haven't been able to try ever.
Well, and it's cool in that this is the game from the era of this game wouldn't exist without Kickstarter, right? Before the time of Kickstarter as a pre-order, this was Kickstarter as no one would ever publish this, but let's see if people want it, right? And that's kind of cool about it, right? It's just we're giant minis in this map. We're battling. Like nobody would ever make like these humongous minis and this giant Cthulhu. He's super huge and stuff. And it's like, no, actually, people wanted to buy that, and it was super successful. So that's cool.
You have to ask Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu what his lifting regimen is, because Cthulhu is stacked. But he's a lean stack too. He's not like a huge thing like other things that we would see. He is very lean, eats a lot of chicken, probably cultists that do him wrong. but he's so muscular in this game. He looks awesome. I wish I had
Dang.
biceps like the Cthulhu in this game.
You should take notes.
What's up?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's my kind of
he could
Cthulhu.
deadlift a megaton. He could deadlift a megaton. Absolutely.
Makes very interested now.
What? I was already convinced.
Yeah, if there's one game that I think I would like to own but never like to play, that's probably it. I don't think it's my play style at all, but I have seen pictures and I'm just like, man, it looks amazing just to have and to look at. But
Yeah.
I don't think I would actually enjoy the play style. I'll be honest.
When we
Gotta be mean,
first-
McKay.
Stating what I know about myself.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, or I'm excited to hear, because I'm kind of like McKay. Like I used to like kind of like the head-to-head combat a lot more than I like now. Like I would rather kind of be passive. And so knowing that there are factions that can be passive in this game is a big boon for me.
Those are the $50 to $80 expansion people though. Although there's one in the core set, it's the yellow sign. So you have Haster, and Haster is passive. You have to go out around desecrating the land. You don't have to combat with Haster, which is awesome. There's some other factions, and these names they're 17 continents next to each other. I don't even know how to pronounce half of them. But some of them are aggressive. Most of them are aggressive. Some of them are passive. Once I played this game, I went to That's Entertainment, the one right next to where I live in Fitchburg. And I asked the manager there, do you have Cthulhu Wars? He's like, no, that's not a game. That it's not a big draw. We had it a long time ago, but we don't have it anymore. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up looking at a dice tray. I take this dice tray. I'm like examining it, and I look up, and it's right there. In all its glory. It's dusty. It's got 7 inches of dust. I was like,
7
blow all the dust off it. I was like, dude, it's right here. He's like, oh, I forgot I had it. He had no idea he had this game.
Yeah,
then
and
you
cue
won't
the
miss
Jumanji
this.
drums.
Yeah, right.
So he price matched it because he had no idea it was in his store, and that's how I lucked into getting my copy of Cthulhu Wars. And now people want it's a super sought after game. Sandy Peterson is having a time right now with creating this game. Unfortunately, hopefully he gets this game up to backers. But man, the game is so good, and I hope you can play it. Or if when we meet up, I'll just bring it and we play it. That's it.
At Boardvengers Con.
Exactly.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Dave, let's hear yours.
All right, sure. Yeah, so in the outset, we were talking about how we chose our table presence, and McKay said picking that a game for being the biggest thing you have is kind of lame, but I don't care. I went that route anyway. I went kind of old school, and maybe it's nostalgia, but this is a game that when I tell people that I'm a hobby gamer, and they say, "Well, oh, you mean like Sorry and Trouble and Monopoly and all that?" This is what I show them a picture of. I show them a picture of me and my family playing Talisman with all of its expansions and
Very nice.
all of the extra boards and the stacks of cards and the minis. And, it's mechanically, it's not a terribly complicated game. And it does get a little hate for that. Although, it's a product of its original development. I first played the second edition back in the 80s when I was a teenager, which I still had that version. It had like the Timescape expansion where you could be an astronaut exploring this magical fantasy world, and it was fantastic. But despite the simplicity of the kind of the roll and move and draw a card, fight whatever it is, get the loot, level up, all that, there's still just so much to explore with all these different regions, and there are still strategies and forking paths you can take, and so many different characters you can choose from once you kind of have all that content. And it's a great experience, great way to kill 3, 4, 6 hours, right? And it can be a little, take that and get into it with other players and beating on each other and stealing each other's loot, but it's okay. You know, you take it for what it is and you enjoy it, and you kind of throw yourself into the adventure, and it's a fun one. And you know, when we have it out and we've got all the expansions on it, you know, we have this oval table that the corners of the expansion boards like stick out over, like it won't even really fit on our table, but we still make it work. So,
Is this the one where the expansions are like the corner, like it
yes.
basically? That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And once you get one expansion, it's like, oh, it's not complete until you get like all of them, because you can physically tell there's
you have
for
to
the
buy them all.
longest time they didn't have that Woodlands expansion, so they only had 3 corners. You're like, oh, they're gonna come out with something. Yeah.
That's awesome. It looks amazing.
I love this game. I'm so happy you picked it, Dave. I honestly almost picked it. If there's a game I beg to play in my house more than anything, it's Talisman. It's the game that I will joke about at 10 o'clock at night and be like, do you want to just play Talisman real quick? And it's so great. I love it. I think that's a great choice too.
Thank you.
I could gush about it, but it is. It's just a great game.
Does anybody know much about the Kingdom Hearts Talisman? Because I saw that and I was like, okay, now I might have to buy it.
So I don't, but I did pre-order the Harry Potter Talisman.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It just
You have my attention.
Next month.
From what I know, I've heard the Batman Talisman is really great, but I have the Kingdom Hearts one. And actually, memories. I got it at PAX Unplugged 2019, and I remember being so excited and carrying it out. There was like a couple copies there, and I grabbed it. Sadly,
you had a key on your back, probably, right?
What?
Did you have a key on your back?
A key, please.
Yeah.
Sadly, I don't think it's definitely not as good. And there are some things that I just think, if you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, it doesn't completely make sense. And I'm not a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts. My husband is, but I love Disney. So I really liked seeing all of that. So if you just like Disney, it's really cool to see all of that stuff. They add a way to win that even if you're not the person who does the final curse at the end, like it's all point based. And based on the points, there's no way to really win. There's no way to win if you're the person that loses with how many points the person in first place makes. So that part doesn't really make sense. And then Donald's powers, and this is from my husband, don't make sense for what his character does in Kingdom Hearts. And Mickey is very overpowered.
So a couple balance issues.
Mickey.
Which is good for kids. Like if kids are playing, the Mickey is a good option. Like if you're trying to get an 8-year-old to play. So I think that's what they were trying to do. But I think if you're like, which talisman should I get? I vote Talisman proper. You know, Dave's got it on the money. That I've heard the Batman one is really good. That one's the one I haven't played, but
maybe I'll wait till I hear how the Harry Potter one is, because that's if there's a property I'm a sucker for, it's Harry Potter.
All right, do I pick next?
Yeah.
How about Nelson?
Okay. Caught me right after I ran back upstairs. Cool. Okay, so we talked about, or I guess I talked about how table presence to me is like judging a book by its cover. And so I had to pick a game that is based off of a book, and that is War of the Ring. So yep. So War of the Ring is a 2-player, I think it can play 4, but it's mainly a 2-player game where like one person controls the free people, one person controls the shadow army, and it's based in Middle Earth. And you have this huge map. I mean, it takes up the entire table. And these like really cool minis that you can't really tell apart, which is kind of a bad thing about the game. I mean, you have these custom dice, and it's basically like a head-to-head war game based for 2-player, which I think is also a really cool kind of mechanic. There's a lot of these war games play best at like 5, 6. And so having it at 2 is really cool. But yeah, it's one of those games where I looked at it, I was like, well, that's a giant map of Middle Earth. I need that. I need that in my collection. So I bought it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my pick. I know there are like a lot of expansions. You get all these like little minis of like the fellowship of all the shadow like players, like bad guys, like all the Nazgul and everything. And so the theme is really cool. You're like you're trying to get the ring to Mount Doom, and the shadow players trying to take over Middle Earth. And so theme is on point. It's definitely one that kind of draws you in. You walk past and you're like, well, I want to control Frodo. That sounds cool. Let me do that. So that's my pick, is War of the Ring.
A funny story about that. I enjoy the table presence, having never played it. My brother-in-law is super into it, and I drew his name out for our family like Christmas gift exchange last year. So I 3D printed him a 1-ring dice tray, and spray painted it gold and everything, and painted it in all the letters glowing. And I was like, and then I went over when he wasn't there and looked at the game, and there's one set of dice that's just like your normal black and whites. Like a lot of them have like the good ones. So I got online, found these like emerald green that all of the numbers were like dragons and stuff. And anyway, I was like, I enjoy this so much that I'm going to deck out your game, because I can see how much better this will be.
The designer in you has to like nerd out on his behalf.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm like, oh, sorry, go for it, Ben.
Oh, I was going to say, there's somebody on BGG who sells, I don't know if they're 3D printed or what, but they're, I've been looking at these for like since I started playing board games, right? Like a long time ago.
Christmas hint.
They sell like a 3D version of Mount Doom.
Yeah.
The track up Mount Doom. And but then they also sell 3D versions of all the cities.
Yeah.
So like you can have Gondor and all this stuff. And I've been on their like geek mail list forever. And they're always like, do you want to buy one? We're back in like making them. And I'm always like, it's too much money. But I've always been like, oh, with the 3D cities.
I mean, if you have a good theme, like it can make the game on its own, because it's such a wonderful theme. You stick that music on, come on, your whole night is made right there then.
But you're absolutely right. Like with nothing else, when you have a map that is as the whole table and
huge.
It's Middle Earth, like everybody's gonna be like, hey, what's that?
Yeah.
Like this is such a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually, before I got into solo gaming, this was probably my favorite game of all time. And one of the saddest things I ever did was sell this game to somebody else that's in this room. But it was
not bitter.
It just is an amazing game. And one of my favorite things too is, my wife and I would play, and I was, the bad people and she was the free people. And you would get hooked in on it because her objectives were completely different than mine. And it was such a cool way to play the game. Instead of it just wasn't like, oh, you just attack each other and hope for the best, whatever. Like my army could just keep going all day and I can just keep regenerating. She's like, I have 6 people. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to hide with Frodo in between the bushes and stuff. Like it's such a cool thing.
You guys ever played Middle Earth Quest? It's kind of another kind of older but sprawling kind of Tolkien based. Fantasy Flight put it out some years ago. It's similar, but it's like one versus many. It's card driven, but you still have some of the minis on the board, and it's another kind of epic multi-hour kind of experience. But that's kind of a fun one, but it's been out of print for a number of years.
That's interesting. No, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Jason to call me out because I have not learned War of the Ring yet. It's on the same set as Founders of Gloomhaven, which I still can't figure out. But I can say the minis are crazy. They're really detailed and really beautiful, and there are so many that I couldn't believe it. It's really, really cool.
It's on my shelf of opportunity as well, Meg, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah. I wasn't going to call you out.
Copy for Jason, so.
I think I sold this game too, and it makes me so sad every time.
Right?
But that 50-page rule book of what happens when you siege a city is different than what happens when you attack a territory that's doesn't have a city, is different than, and it's like we could do the same thing with Star Wars Rebellion, where somebody's hiding and somebody's finding them, but it's way easier to play.
Well, that was the thing. Makes me sad. And we had Star Wars, and I was like, we rarely get to them because
I made the wrong choice.
And I was like, we have to pick one, and so you pick Star Wars.
What an idiot.
Well, you wanted to keep both, but I was like, we don't have time. It would be like once every 2 years we get it out, and then
Yeah.
It just took forever and this and that. And that's also when like kids were really little. So it was extra hard to try to play.
Breaks my heart.
Nelson, the first time, do you
Calm
remember how
down.
long it took us to like set up and learn? I feel like it was like 2 hours before we actually
think-
like took the first turn.
I think
Oh,
it
yeah.
was Saturday.
Yeah.
Like I
It
think
was
we
Saturday.
set up, we
On
set up and
Sunday,
learned
yeah.
on Saturday and then
It
played
was
half
a
the
full
game on Sunday.
24
I
hours.
like how it's a day.
Right.
It's not a time
day.
period.
I remember
great
having a
weekend.
lunch break. I remember
starting
having
to
a lunch
measure
break.
I remember starting to measure in 6-packs instead of time.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like this game is great if you both know how to play it.
Mhm.
Well, that
Yeah.
was,
And if you're learning it, it's fine. If you
Right.
both know how to play it, it's fantastic. But if you play a lot of games, how often is this coming to the table? Like this has to be something that you like, and you pull out and you play against each other.
yeah.
Right. And gosh, dang it. I wish I still had it.
Sorry.
So I get to pick.
You get to pick.
Ooh. Okay, Ben, what's up?
Oh,
This was a hard choice. And like McKay did, I don't want to say too many games in case other people said them, because a lot of games popped into my head, but then
Yeah,
they
there
were
were a
games
lot.
like, do I really like that game or whatever? Like the first, I don't know if anybody's going to say this. The first game that popped into my head was Tidal Blades.
Mhm.
And I was like all the colors. I mean, that's on a
Yeah.
table. Like people are like, what's going on here? Like, this is cool. Like a tournament. The dice tray looks like an arena and stuff. But I was like, I haven't played that game enough to really be like, it's great or it's
we
not.
played it like twice.
I played it at
Total.
4 players and it was fun. I played it at 2 and it wasn't. So I don't know. I didn't want to talk about that. So I picked a game that actually is kind of hard to find nowadays, I think. I don't think it's in print.
Yeah, do you want me to push you over
Hold
there?
on. I got the box right here. Mechs versus Minions.
Woo!
Right. This is like when it was new from Riot, it was $75 for a gigantic box of tons of like formed trays of pre-painted minis. So all the minions are gray plastic, but they have like a shade, a wash on them.
They have like a dark wash on them. So
The
they are
4
defined.
player characters are pre-painted, and the boss comes in this like big
Yeah.
secret box, and you open it up. It looks like a toy.
This
right?
is something
Like-
that now on Kickstarter, I feel like would be like, you're gonna pay 200 plus.
Like
for
this
it.
game
Like,
looks like a toy,
Yeah.
right?
This is the Stefan Feld all in 700.
Yeah, right.
It is that kind of thing because like we
But it's
haven't
good.
like we haven't played this in a while, and when we got it out to look at it, there's like 4 trays of just like, here are the components before we get to the board, and I was like, is it real? I don't remember it being this many pieces.
Yeah,
There's so much to this.
It's a cooperative programming campaign game, right? So you have a personal deck that improves over time as you play through the campaign and unlock the missions. All the boards that you play on, they even have oil slicks on the boards, and those are printed differently. They're like glossy, like they look shiny on the board, and the boards are huge. So all the playing pieces look like toys, kind of like Crossmaster Arena, right? That's a game that looks like a toy. But it has these great big boards. And so when it's all set up, like I don't see how somebody could walk by and not be like, what in the world is this? And then it's a programming co-op game. Oh, that's where I like this game, because programming is fun, and trying to program
God.
as a group at the table, but not knowing what everybody's cards are. You can't really quarterback. You can kind of generally tell people like, okay, I'm going to go this way and try to do this, and you should probably go up here and try to do that, but you can't exactly tell them what to do. So I feel like it plays really well, and it looks amazing. And that kind of together is like, it can draw people in to be like, what is this? I think the only negative is, I don't know how easy it is to find nowadays.
I don't know if I've seen it really.
You bought it for 75, and that may have been your best investment of the decade.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember I was on a work trip, but I knew that the phase 1 sale was going to go up or whatever at a certain time. I was like in a hotel in Europe,
was
And
gonna
I was
say,
like
you're
on my
in
phone, like
Norway at
trying
a
to log into Riot's website. Like, I need to buy this. I need to
3
buy this.
a.m. in Norway
Yeah,
and trying
exactly.
to.
I'll explain it to Emily when I get back.
So with the roaming charges, the game actually cost them 130, but
Exactly.
Exactly right.
That's still a steal for what it is. When we were looking at it, because we're like, well, let's get it back out, because I don't quite, it's been a while since we played it. And it was like, here's a tray, here's a tray, here's a tray. And I'm like, when do we get to the board at this point? Here's all these like extra pieces I don't remember. Like, there is a lot to this game.
Each mission is in a file folder, and then
that
in
is
the file
cool
folder
too.
is like the upgrade cards for each of the characters, and like,
which kind of reminds me of that like Gloomhaven, like it's a secret until you get to it, which I always love that in games as a little surprise. But
it's a fun experience. Like, I've played through all 10 missions, and then at the end you sign a certificate that you beat it. Like, that was a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun doing that.
Pick someone.
What's your
Do I have to
pick,
go?
Em? You're right.
I'm right here.
You're right here.
I honestly didn't know, and I kind of picked Ben's like extra in a way. Though
My
I also
mention.
I also agree, but I picked Rising Sun.
We have
nice, yeah.
We
But
have the
we have
neoprene
like the
mat here.
neoprene mat, which I feel like definitely adds to it. If it was a board, I mean, it's still like a big game, but I mean, it has the map on it, and you're fighting like this Japanese warrior set that you get, and you're fighting, but we have like the tiles here are like dominoes, almost like the material.
What's
and
that
then
called? Like Baked Light or something like that?
I don't know, but then there's so many little characters that if you see this game set out, it's very like, you can tell, like you guys were saying earlier, you can tell what's going to happen. Like, there's a battle happening, and you can see how you're like entering different territories, but there's so much happening that's just very visually like you want to find out what's going on.
Well, and like I've played Chaos in the old, like the Eric Lang area control games, right? I've played Chaos in the Old World, Blood Rage, Rising Sun. I haven't played Ankh, but the other two, like Blood Rage is great. I like Blood Rage a lot, but it still looks like a board game. But if you have the neoprene mat, you've got all the minis, and everybody has their little secret thing to do their bidding behind. And you have the like domino bakelite action tiles, and like I have the monsters painted for Rising Sun. Like I and that's set out on the table. It takes up a whole table. It's huge. It doesn't even fit on the table we have downstairs. We'd have to play it upstairs. It's the kind of thing where it would be like, people would be like, whoa,
Well, I
what
mean,
is all this?
It
Like,
also
this is crazy.
It has like the Japanese art that reminds you of like an actual, like kind of like the Lord of the Rings map scenario. It's that same like big map where you're like, I want to find out more. What's going on here? Like, you have the really cool art, and you can see where like you're entering different territories, and it's very interesting to look at, let alone then play with all the different components. So
Well, and it's the kind of thing where like we might play Blood Rage on a game night. Like, sure, well, yeah, let's play Blood Rage or whatever. If we're gonna do Rising Sun, it's an event. I make sure there's an odd number of players, so you can't have alliances between everybody. You get everybody over. You need a big table. It fills up the whole table, right? It's got I got all the monster minis painted. You got all the fancy tiles and the metal money and all this stuff, and it's like, no, we're gonna play Rising. Like, you would invite people over to play it.
Ben's just mad because I would always alliance with someone else, and he would just be
And it never
super
worked out for
pissed
you, did
off.
it?
I feel like it worked out for me great. Let's check the top and see who won last. But
Yeah.
it would
I
always
had
just
this-
be
in that
Ken
game.
passing me money, being like, we're in alliance, and we're just like cheating under the table essentially. Yeah, he's just mad.
I had this one originally, and I totally agree with you. It's amazing on the table. It's not just like beautiful to look at, but the mechanisms are incredibly well designed and well integrated. I had to get rid of it though, because it was the closest I'd ever come to fist fights at game night.
It can
Like, it
be
was not
very.
healthy for our game group. I'm
I
like,
totally
can't
agree
keep this.
though.
Yeah.
It is that point where you're like, are you kidding me right now? When someone is like, we're gonna be an alliance, and they do their
Oh.
Dave,
Like,
I
you
don't
have
know.
the little tokens, and when you put them together, and you're like, I am
Oh,
so
yeah.
pissed off right now that you guys just yin yang together.
It honestly makes it so much worse. You're totally right. Like it feels like such a higher betrayal that there's like this, I don't know, there's
Yes.
actual piece to it.
We're
Dave,
supposed to
I-
be brothers. How could you do this to me?
Like
That's
when you
what
lay
it's
this
like.
betray tile down, it's like so satisfying
like,
that
you
it's
have
like
got
it's like
to be kidding
big
me.
and heavy, right? It's not like, oh, I
Yeah.
betray you. It's like, you know, it's like boom, you lay that down,
Yeah.
you slide it in the spot.
And all of a sudden, you're like, like it.
Do you like lean back in your chair with like one arm propped up, and a drink in your hand? Like that's right, bitch.
Exactly. It is that though. Like it's a fun like negotiation and like the betrayal and like the whole works of laying out the tiles and the who are you gonna go with, and it's, I don't know. I think it's good visually, and the gameplay is really great.
There's so much more going for Rising Sun than Ankh. I will say that Ankh was just. I haven't played Blood Rage. I love Rising. There's something about. I'm a sucker for Ancient Egypt. That theme is great. Rising Sun though, it's so great to get on the table. So you could probably just skip Ankh altogether, honestly. But that is a hot take for another day.
I need to convince somebody in my game group to buy it so I can at least say I've played all 4 of the area.
Just making other people spend money.
The first time we played Rising Sun, it was 3 players, and I was like, okay, we need to be cooperative with each other, and it was the last turn of the game, and I was like, Evangelo, you and I, we're gonna do this. So I took my extra action, and then I put that betrayal thing right on him.
Oh,
He was so upset. He can't trust me in games. He should know better than to say, "Yeah, Dad, I'm gonna let's have an alliance." No.
wow.
Put
All
the betrayal
trust
token right on
out
him.
the
Wow.
window.
Welcome to
That's
the
too
real
young.
world, son.
Have fun paying for counseling.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
That is always fun though, when you play, to be like, should we be an alliance? And you're doing that thing across the table, but at the same time you're like, do I trust this person? Or so.
Yeah, unless it's you and Ken and you're constantly
We're
slipping
just
money under
always-
the table to each other to beat me in frickin'
Ken is
every
always like,
auction.
I'm gonna give you 2 to not fight in that zone, and he would like
I
slip
hate
me
you
money.
guys.
It's just
Back-
me and
back-
Ken against
back to
you.
Dave. Back to Dave's point, of getting rid of it, so that way there's no fist fights. It
Yeah.
sounds like in my bottom left corner that could have happened at some point in time. Like, stop giving him money.
That's the only bad thing about this game is you need so many people. Obviously, we're more
Yeah,
2
it plays
players.
best at 5. It really does.
Yeah, but I mean, so
Yeah.
that's the only sad thing is we haven't got it out in a while because of that. But
That fifth
Yeah.
player gets screwed out of so much, or the odd man, the odd person out, really, because you can play it at 3. You can just play it at any odd number because it only plays till 5, right?
I
So
believe
3
so.
3 or 5, because if you're playing 3, 2 people are able to be allied together, and that third person, when you're allied, you have extra bonus actions. Whereas the odd man or the odd person out doesn't get that extra action of the other player. So it kind of really screws with the other player as you're playing the game.
Okay, so I get to pick someone.
Yeah. Who do you pick?
Why'd you say it like that?
Because it's a big choice.
I think
Who
you're flipping a
hasn't?
coin, right?
Dalton,
Yeah.
have you gone?
I think it's me and Jason.
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone?
Are we? Okay, Dalton, go for it.
I can totally do that as I mute myself accidentally.
Okay, I was like, did I not? Okay.
Right here, I'm like, and I'm out.
Yeah.
No. So I chose Shogun. And the reason I chose Shogun is because I don't think it actually has great components, and I don't think it has a super interesting theme, right? I'm also kind of following the Japanese theme, right after Rising Sun. But I think it's okay in terms of theme, and that's kind of why I chose it, is because I think it still manages a table presence. And the reason that it does for me is when I first played it, we were at Nelson's house. We were having kind of like a friends only Gen Con kind of thing. So we had like typically like 3 to 4 tables of games going at any one time. And there were constantly people stopping by the Shogun table to figure out what we were playing. And the reason was because it has like the little cube tower, right? And so you like, when you have like these fights, you like drop your cubes in, and it will like, it holds some of those cubes, and if your cubes from previous fights fall out, then you get to add that to your like active force and stuff like that. So there's really like crazy like tactile mechanic that's going on, and because it's a fairly like it's not like large compared to some of the games we talked about tonight, but it's like large maybe compared to like an average game in terms of just like being on the table. And so we had 6 people around the table who were all like immediately focused on this one small component, which was the dice tower, right? And so we had people standing up and like prepped in their seats, like, what's gonna happen, you know? And so like people would walk by and be like, oh my god, what's everybody so excited about? Like they're all staring at this one like aspect of the board, and something would fall out and it would just be colored cubes, right? And then we would all freak out, like all 6 of the people be like, what, you know, like that, there's no way that could have happened. And so then there became this whole like ritual around like pray to the dice, you know, to the cube god, that your cubes will fall out of the cube tower. And so people were like worshiping the tower, like, come on, give me the cubes, you know, and then like it wouldn't happen. And so just like that mechanic was like so, I don't know, enticing, and so it just like it drew all the players in so strongly that nexus drew in any player who like walked by, even though the theme of the game was just like kind of average. It's just like you're shogun, you're just some sort of medieval person, feudal age, kind of fighting for your territory or whatever. So anyway, it's an area control game that I love. I love dudes on a map games, and so that mechanic I think I found so like unique and so enticing that I really wanted to use this opportunity to highlight it, because it's a game I have not gotten to play enough of.
I'm pretty sure there's still some of my cubes stuck in that tower.
Right. The math doesn't add up. There's no way.
I put way more than came out. That's all I'm saying.
They're still in there.
They're still in there.
It is amazing how
cube tower.
It's amazing how like a single component can do that. Clank did that for our group, just like the moment of drawing out of the bag. But that's probably the biggest explosion I've ever had in a game. Was I was one turn away from getting out alive with my relic and everything in Clank, and I knew I maybe had like 1 or 2 cubes in the bag. I knew I had it, and they were drawing out 3, reach in the bag, draw 3 out of my color, and I just yelled, no, it's not happening.
Oh
That's
gosh,
impossible.
I've not, like, most of the games that everyone said I haven't played, which now I feel like I'm a loser at this point because I haven't played any of these.
You're
From
not.
the
I think
game
I'm rocking
night.
like
From the
33%.
game night.
I'm maybe on a third.
I
haven't played-
okay, good. So I don't feel I'm not totally
Me neither.
alone.
Yeah.
I haven't played Shogun, but I have. I play tested a game that's in development by the same folks that put out Mind Management.
So I don't feel
And it's got a cube tower, just like you were talking about, and it's really kind of a fascinating thing, you know, in terms of, you know, you're loading it up, but you just don't have any idea on that turn what's going to come out. And it really does. But you know, like if you have a crappy turn this time, like, okay, well, but you know, future turns it's going to be great, right? So it really does kind of add that randomness, not dice, but it kind of gives you weighted
odds.
Weighted odds. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's a good way to think of it. We had like, you know, there are people who are like, I'm just investing in the tower, you know, and some people who are kind of like card counting it, right? Like how many cubes do I have in there, or like roughly. And then you make these like crazy attacks where it's like 1 cube against like 5, and they're like, I got it. Like, and then they roll out like 6 cubes or something. It's like, how did you know? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Unless you're Nelson and never come back out.
Yeah, right.
They're still
Right.
in there.
Yeah, Nelson was doing that strategy. It just didn't work.
At the end of the game, I was deconstructing the tower looking for him. It was bad.
I was coding his in glue. Don't tell him.
They're glued on the inside.
That
I
makes a
think
lot of
that's a sign
sense.
of a
Yeah.
really great game, though. If everyone else is really excited about your turn, if everyone's watching your turn and is like, and can get that excited, that's a fantastic game. And then if you have friends around that aren't even playing, that are invested, that's I've never played this one, but I had a similar. I feel like I keep saying all my worst times in gaming. But I played Clank and I got out before I even got down. I got into like the bottom level like for a second, and they pulled like every single cube that was mine. We explained this to a friend. Again, we were showing it to someone. And
You're like,
I
this
was
is a
just
fun
out.
game.
I was done for the rest of the night. I was like, cool.
Oh man, that is so horrible in Clank though. So I understand that at least, but
I was like, before how do I even have that many in the thing? But I did.
Awesome. All right, Jason, do you want to close this out?
Yes. So I'm excited. We are not going to pick any doubles. So all this talk that people are thinking we're going to pick doubles and we're not going to, because no one picked Uno. But I actually I want to mention a quick runner up that I really thought someone was going to pick, and that's Kingdom Death Monster. I recently just my buddy got it and recently just started playing it. And I love it. And the table presence is insane. And once you build all those minis and whatnot, it's fantastic. It's all black. So I guess that's why it kind of blends in. So that's why I didn't pick it, because the monocolor to it.
It only counts if you magnetize every piece of the model so that you can build your characters to exactly the armor that you have in the game.
Oh my God.
This is next level.
This is brilliant.
Right,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why did we
You got to
use glue?
magnetize
Damn.
every piece. So when you got the lion chest and the whatever I
Sounds
don't know,
out of
I haven't
control.
played Kingdom Death Monster, but like you got all the pieces, you got to like magnetize your guy to be exactly who he is.
Sounds insane.
You have to buy a second copy now. This is okay.
Ideas are happening right now.
He's canceling his Stefan Feld pledge to get
Yeah,
a
right?
second copy.
Canceling and starting new.
Stefan Feld KDM. Okay. So for me, as you all know, I love Too Many Bones. I absolutely love that game. I adore everything about it. And it was the first chip theory game I got into. And their next big hit is a MOBA style defense tower game. And it was something that when I first saw it, I said, nah, I'm just not interested in this. This is not something I'd be totally for. And I started watching videos and I started getting into it. And when I started really seeing all the pieces and what actually comprises the game and how it's put together, I just had to get it. And Cloudspire has been one of those games that every time I put it on the table, I'm amazed by it. I have a gaming table that fits everything but that game. It's just too big for that table. It's like I said, for me, it's super unique and it's tower defense style where you get the minis, you have actual towers with the weighted poker chips, with the dice, with the cards, with the neoprene. I mean, they throw everything at it with this game. And it's a game that I'll play solo, but it's probably in my collection for multiplayer now at this point. And there's not many games that can do that for me. So yeah, I'm going with Cloudspire. And it's one of those things, whenever someone says they want a colorful game, they want a unique game that's like nothing else that's out there in the market, it's always the first one I point to, because I really honestly can't think of another game that's like it. And with that table presence, when I set it all up, my buddy came over and he said, what are we playing? This looks insane. And I'm like, you'll see. It's a special treat every single time. So I went with Cloudspire.
Awesome. One of my friends went to Gen Con, and this person said, I really want to get Cloudspire. Does anybody know anything of it? And I thought of you, and I thought of somebody else, because I've heard nothing but good things. So I texted my friend Todd, and this is direct quote right from the text. I'm like, may I have your official Cloudspire review? My friend wants it. And he said, oh God, sorry, just got back. Just got my phone back. Got drunk and left it in an Uber last night. And Cloudspire is effing incredible, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. LOL. It's for a very specific person, but if you're that person, it's incredible.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. And it's weird because a couple of my friends came to play it over and we got to play an actual big game of it, which was fun. And it was weird because it's the easiest game to teach you how to play. I mean, the actual mechanics of it are very, very simple. The problem is each faction is so wildly different in how it operates, is that I would have to sit down with each of you and say, okay, this is how this faction works. And this is like what you are trying to do as a faction. Now let me go on to you. And this is what I'm trying to do with you. Like, that's the one thing that's tough about it. And if you don't have someone that can think in that mindset, that like, even though we're playing the same game, I'm kind of doing a different like strategy and a different idea. Even though all of our goals are the same, I'm doing something completely different. And it's tough for people to wrap their head around that. And I get it. And if you can't do it, hard pass in this game.
That's where Ben is like, Emily, can you fucking focus for 10 seconds? Like, because I'm like, I lose focus and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's explaining just mine. And I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's just like, it's
forgive
lots of games where all of a sudden I'm like, if it's not the same, I can't focus for 20 minutes to like figure out just mine.
Here's an important question. I can't afford Too Many Bones and Cloudspire. Which one should I get?
Too Many Bones.
Too Many
Hands
Bones.
down. Hands
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't afford Too Many Bones
Good to
or
know.
Cloudspire.
Too Many Bones still.
Oh man, I demoed Cloudspire at Gen Con, and just because like I knew you like chip theory games, and I usually like what you like apparently. So I went over and demoed Cloudspire, and like I was this close to buying it, but I like did not want to carry it around the con the rest of the day.
Oh no!
Well, it's probably like 30 pounds.
Yeah, it was.
I know.
Yeah,
I
was gonna give me back problems, so I was like, I'm just not gonna do it.
it's
But
like
it
a
looked
weight
amazing.
lesbian.
You had like the 3D models of like the towers. It looked incredible. So great choice. It drew me in because I walked by it. I was like, I need to know what that is.
Yeah.
Tell me now.
And it's you could fit all the expansions in the core box, and it's terrible because like I built my own shelving for my games, and I built it with thick red oak, and it's the only shelf that's bending now because it just can't hold this box that well. And I was like, I should use bigger than an inch. But,
That's really funny.
but yeah, Emily, with going on that, like it has reference sheets for each person, so you could be like, oh, I can reference my
Okay.
faction, whatever. But the problem is you still might not know what it means because there's a reference sheet for the reference sheet.
I think
and then
it's
there's a reference
more
sheet on something else.
I'm more this sounds horrible. I'm more annoyed because it's like we play one time and I learn it, and it's like now let's switch, and I want to be like it's like doing if someone was like now let's do like a homework. I'm like I don't want to switch. I don't want to learn something new. I just want to learn the game and play the game and not have to keep like. I mean, I understand though the fun in the fact that it's like we can switch. It's not the same thing, and we can keep like rotating and doing different things. I'm just lazy. Is why.
As much as I love like dudes on a map style games, I have that same problem with like Root, where it's like
Yes!
I don't know that I'm getting good at this game because I have to relearn how to play it every time.
Well,
okay. I'm
and
not
the
alone.
problem with Root too, I feel like I'm teaching 4 different games. Like with Root.
Yes!
Like it's
For sure.
so
For sure.
asymmetric. Like it's to the
I feel
next
like they're
level.
mad right now, and I'm like these
No, I
people
agree.
understand me.
I totally agree.
That's
like,
why with Rue, I was like, yeah, I learned this one, and I'm like, but I don't want to learn a game like 4 times. I want to learn a game once.
I just want to be the cute raccoon and run around and fuck with everybody.
right.
That's all I want.
Thank you. We just want to be the
Just
cute
come out,
character.
stab you, and then go back into the woods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Ben, I will say, if you're planning to play with a large group of people, Too Many Bones starts getting kind of weak with like 4 people. Like it just gets too easy in my opinion. So if you're playing with like a group of 4, maybe Cloudspire, maybe.
yeah, right. I've
Yeah.
only played Too Many Bones at 4, and it's very long. At
With
4.
Ryan?
It was kind of the thing of like, I just wish this moved a little quicker. I wish we were playing it at 3, but it is the same thing where you get that handout for your character, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're like, here's your reference, and it's like, let me get
Is
it's
it
like
huge?
in
Oh my
size
God,
10
I don't want
font.
that. See, that's what I mean.
Just giant sheet. It's double-sided.
It's like
No.
someone's. That's the thing. When someone's handing me homework,
I like that. I
no,
like that
of
about
course
that.
you do. You're an engineer. Like you're totally no.
I was like, whoa, look at how cool mine
oh,
is.
shut up! I
I had
hate
the
that.
one who you had to make like steam to do stuff. You needed like water in your tanks. That was
Well, that's okay. That's an engineer versus someone who does not do that. Where
oh, you would hate that game.
yes, someone hands it to me and I'm gonna be like, I signed up for fun, not homework at this point. And that's when I'm like, especially when no one else is doing the same thing. So it's I don't even know if I'm doing it correctly because I'm like reading off my own sheet.
Well, we'll let you know 3 hours later if you lose. Then you
Yeah.
did it incorrectly.
Yeah, that must have been your fault. You didn't
That's the
understand your character.
problem.
Why did you upgrade to that dice? That
Yeah,
didn't make
right?
any
That's
sense.
poor
What was
choice.
it?
That is it. It's like at the end, I'm like, well, I'm doing
Did you
this.
even read your sheet?
And that's what happens. And then
Or
I
your
go,
supplemental sheet.
I'm
Come
done
on.
with this game.
Right,
And
the
we're
sheet
yeah.
for the sheet. So you
Ugh.
didn't read the sheet for the sheet.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't play that. So
I
Alright,
feel
I'll
like
go get
M
it.
is the one that has
can
the
go hang out with
closest.
Jason.
Me and M,
So.
I think, have the closest preference for board games in
Yes.
this group. Like keep it a little lighter than that.
I think it's
Yeah, it
M
just
on one end,
yeah.
and then me, and then Beard Order in the middle. Because I'm sitting there like, I've been playing D&D a lot more lately, and I've had like all the books spread out and been like, I feel like I'm in class again, and I have like, you guys are saying Harry Potter, I have like Harry Potter lo-fi on, and I'm just like, do, and I'm gonna highlight this, and I can star this, I'm gonna use a different color pen for this, and then
If I didn't have 3 children, yeah, I'd be right where you are, Meg. Like, it's after 3 kids all day, I won't be like, after I've been yelling at everyone, been like, get in bed. That by the time nighttime comes, I'm like, I don't want to think much. I just want to play.
Well, I loved Dave's choice of talisman. That is like, you described it perfectly. You said the word adventure, right? We're gonna roll the dice and we're gonna see what happens. That's your worst nightmare. Emily would be like, why are we even doing this? Like, what are we doing here?
Also, I'm so bad at rolling dice though. Like
No, that's
you
actually true.
don't think someone can be bad at rolling. I'm
Yeah, you're
horrible
actually
at
bad
rolling
at it.
dice.
It's super
It's-
convenient when you're good at it, you know.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. I'm real bad. Where Ben goes, are you serious right now? Like when we do any sort of I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm bad
I
at
feel
it.
like we would be like the board game like power team, because I am great at dice rolling.
There we go.
Like we went to the very first PAX Unplugged, and that's when we played Zombicide, and I got to roll for the trebuchet, and I forget how many dice it is, but it's like 6 or 8 or something crazy because I only demoed it. But I rolled like 1 5 and all 6s, and it was me playing with 3 other guys, and they're all just like, and Dan was like, she does this all the time. Nothing.
No,
nothing new.
I would be like 1 1 1. Like mine is to the point where you're like, this can't be right. Like it's
So
bad.
you go half and half. That's good stuff, right?
Yeah,
there.
we need to team up because I'm horrible. I just need
Play-
I just need help. Is all it is.
I play a lot of Warhammer with a guy who can really roll dice, and it's like, oh my god, come on, man. Like, I feel like I should be winning right now, but you have dice rolls, so that's the end of that.
That's
Oh, that's probably the swingiest game on dice rolls too.
well,
It's
yeah.
a rough one.
You know what's weird with dice rolls is that when I roll for myself, like I'm off. I'm a terrible dice roll. But yet when I roll for the AI, it's really good every single time. It's
course.
weird how I have this skill.
That is how it works, right?
Yeah. I want to pose a question to the group, and this is after having this conversation with y'all. I thought of this. Does table presence mean a high price tag? And this could be just super quick, super impromptu. Is there a game that you can think of that is on the not so expensive price point? Because we're hobby gamers, we don't mind spending, X amount on games. Are there any games that you can think of that are within, being budget friendly and having a great table presence?
Yeah, I think they're correlated, but there are outliers, right? Like one of the things that came to mind was Bosk, which I think is like a $30 game. But that game, just like you're putting like 3D trees out and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, a lot of colors. I think that is an amazing table presence. I almost picked it just because of what you just said. It's like, it's kind of the outlier. It doesn't cost $300. But I think you are onto something. Like there's a correlation there.
You just saying Bosk, it made me think of photosynthesis.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I
it's
was
another good
almost
one, yeah.
thinking of that one.
Yeah.
I thought of that one because we have it, but we honestly haven't played it in forever. But it is that like it looks so pretty that you're interested right away. But that is a very like simple game overall.
And I guess it depends how you define it, right? Like if I defined what game on the table draws my attention, you can skew into cheaper games or less expensive games if it's drawing your attention because of like, let's say the activity or the uniqueness of what you see, right? I think of a game like a newer game, right? So Clover. Right.
Yeah.
If you looked at the table and people are like playing So Clover and they're filling out words on a 4x4 grid on these clover leaf things with dry erase markers, that's the kind of game, inexpensive, that I might be like, hey, what is that? Right. And it might draw my attention. I definitely agree, though, that there is a correlation between table presence and cost. Like there's no question. But you could also have games where like there's a lot of activity at the table that also can draw your attention.
I think too, there's a lot of dexterity games that are not too expensive that lend themselves well to that. So I think of like Junk Art or like Rhino Hero as things that, you know, if someone sees you playing that, it's like, whoa, that's unique. What's going on there, right?
I was going to say the same thing about flip ships, the art in flip ships, as well as just kind of like the motion of like, you have these things flying across the table. It does wonders for it. But also games like, one thing that we haven't talked about is like Potion Explosion. There's like this nice like clickety clack sound going as like marbles are rolling and refilling them in. And there's just a visual nature to that as well that's pretty satisfying, and that I think does just kind of like pull everybody in.
And that marble sorter is a nice kind of like central feature, you know, a centerpiece that draws your attention. You know, games that have those, you know, I think that they really do draw you in.
And that's the kind of thing that draws in a non-gamer. They see that marbles rolling down the track and they're like, hey, what's that? Like, that looks familiar. I want to know what that is.
I drew a circle in the dirt as a kid and tossed some marbles.
Right. Well, or like, what about like a galaxy trucker? If you walk by when people are building their ships, you're like, hey, what's going on here? You know?
That's true.
Oh, no, I was gonna say I would even make the argument for like a Marvel Champions, because Marvel is such a huge IP right now that people would just look at it and go, oh wait, I understand this already. Like, I understand the whole basicness of it, and the gameplay is not that hard to play. And you know, people play cards all the time, so it's like, okay, cards, you know, and look at it. So I think if you look at it sprawling across the table, yes, you're right, more expensive, but just catching somebody's eye and keeping it, I think the other things.
I was wondering how long it would take to come up.
Good, like an hour 45 or so. I think that's respectable, honestly.
I'll still get Lord of the Rings in there. Just give me time.
Dice Forge was the other one I thought of too, because
Dice Forge was on my list. Yeah,
$30 or $40, and just seeing someone, you know, kind of mess with a dice and figure out what side they want to do it. Like that, I thought that was really cool. And the board is really pretty too.
Yes.
And the way that they organize all the little chits that you can choose. I mean, that it just comes in that, you know, you slide that sheath and then it's like all these little, you know, and it's so well presented.
Never has a game had the box so integrated into the game.
Fantastic.
That game is an enigma to me. Every time I try and price out a board game in my head, Dice Forge comes to mind as, how are they only selling this for 30 to 35? Like, you take Terraforming Mars that has far less impressive components and is double the price. Like, I don't know how or why they sell it for so little, but whenever somebody asks about Dice Forge, I generally will say, you're hard pressed to find a game with better artwork, better components, and just overall for that price, like, it is in a class all its own. Price versus like value of production and components.
Yeah, I think the other one that I kind of had that I was thinking about, which I think I bought for $15 on like a Black Friday sale, was Santorini. And Santorini is like the 3D chess, like where you're trying to, you know, build your way to the top. But it's one of those where you
points in that game. And that's a callback from the last Boardvengers episode. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, so the you know, $15 and you get to build like these 3D towers and you're moving these pieces around, and as you like, even the board itself is 3D, right? Like the thing that you like put out on the table is 3D. And so it's one of those that immediately draws you in. You're walking by, you're like, that's interesting. That's not like anything I've ever seen before. What is that? And so there are outliers there.
Yeah, that is a game that I have played solely based on table presence for sure. Like, this won't take too long. Teach it to me. I might not like it, but teach it to me.
Well, and I still pull it out purely. I don't enjoy playing the game that much, but I do enjoy pulling it out and seeing the city come together. Like, it's still enjoyable, even though I don't think the game is that great or that stand out. It's still enjoyable to pull out and see it happen.
And to be fair, to stick up for my pick, because I looked it up, Dead of Winter is only $40.
That is a game with incredible value.
That's affordable.
And I think we said it earlier, but it really speaks to it that there's no miniatures. It's just the artwork on the standees, and I think that really helps with price points. That I think that's something publishers have strayed away from now because people want miniatures, and then that kind of changes what our market looks like now.
But like, would you, if they had the choice of like more for miniatures or the price point it's at for standees, what would you choose?
I think I'd be happy with either.
Okay.
I think I'm not picky.
I didn't know if anyone was like, I would
do
really
standees,
want.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I pick standees.
I
But
feel
I
like,
love
I would be
art,
fine
like-
with that.
Yeah, like
I love
enjoy
seeing the
minis.
artist renditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fully colored artist
Yeah, that's
rendition
true.
on a standee is like better than I get
Like a
gray
gray blob.
plastic
Yeah.
Right.
thing.
I agree.
Especially at the size that they are in Dead of Winter, that makes a huge
Yeah.
difference. Like
Yeah.
a standee where they're all like kind of this like dome shaped cutout is kind of like, that's pretty boring. But when you get them that big, it's cut out around their body and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
Yeah,
Dead of
they also
Winter, I
printed
love
enough
that.
like they also printed enough like unique standees, I think, to like sort of cover their ass a little bit. Like there's enough unique zombies to where like visually it still looks interesting, even though they are standees. But I also think like the true art in the game is in the Crossroads cards, right? Like that's like the storytelling. Like this exactly like that's really where the game is meant to shine. So I appreciate that that's where they focus their effort.
Another game I almost picked was Sea of Legends, and I think that one is one where the minis are the monsters, or I mean, it's kind of different like which one you pick, but they're a lot bigger. So I think that's one where I would really want it. But something like Dead of Winter, I wouldn't want to change.
I'll also say, like, I've been disappointed in a lot of games for like they win table presence over quality of game. There have been several games that I've been like, okay, like just strip this down. I would have been okay with this experience as like a $30 to $40 game, but you put in all of these bells and whistles that aren't necessary, bumping it up to like a $60 price point. And I'm like, the game doesn't support $60. I get that your components do, but it's not a $60 game. It's a $30 game with $60 components.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but do you have examples?
Oh, I need to dig in my head for them. Hold on. Talk about something else. I'll come back.
I don't think it's a $60 game, but my initial go-to for that was the Harry Potter deck builder, right? Like if you strip away theme for that, I would not play that game. But it's like, I love Harry Potter, so it's like, yeah, I'm going to play the game.
So fun for that reason.
So it's adjacent to what you were talking about, but not quite there. So but I'm interested to hear what anybody has to say about that, where, you know, they overpriced it because of the table presence.
I would actually say that and don't run me out of town for this, but most Stonemaier games, I feel like the experiences are pretty small and the components are very large.
Yeah.
And it's a play style. He's talked about that's his game, like his game design philosophy is he likes it slow and incremental growth, quick turns, small decisions that build up over time. And that's all well and good. But like, I don't know. I think Wingspan is probably appropriate. But then you get into like Tapestry and Charterstone, and I'm just like, I don't know. They just feel like small. They feel small in big boxes.
I actually just thought, I think a good example, and I love this game, but also like with what Ben was talking about with just a bunch of gray that you look at, is Mansions of Madness. If that one was some beautiful art, and I know that, you know, the Arkham Files, they have the art. If that was all standees, it could be a much more affordable price point, and I would probably like it better.
I do give credit to like Breaking Games with Dwellings of Eldervale, because they do have the different versions of the game. You can get it with or without the minis, so it does kind of provide different options for the same game experience, which is, it's nice when publishers do that.
I almost picked that game, but it's going to segue me into us, because the next time we get together will be for Game of the Year of 2021.
Oh, snap.
Look out. Look out.
Gloomhaven again.
It's coming.
Baby.
Yeah, right?
another board
crazy.
And unless Frosthaven comes out pretty soon.
Right.
And so next year can be Frosthaven.
There you go.
Next year, that's optimistic. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Very optimistic.
Well said.
Thank you, Boardvengers, for assembling for another special Boardvengers crossover. Again, I love that we are able to do this, that we have our own things, but we come together and talk about games. because I think, as Ben said earlier today, this community is phenomenal. So thank you again. Until we do this again really soon, happy gaming.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.